Hello, we were supposed to have the presentation today. However, there seems to be an outage from Airtel. This had happened some time ago also, and this has happened today. And quite a few participants have requested us to postpone it because they are unable to attend. And since recordings are not available, they have made this request. Now, this being the first time, we are honoring the request, but it's going to happen that in some place or other, if such a thing happens, we will not be able to honor it. Only since this is happening for the first time, and they have made a sincere request. We are postponing today's lecture to Fridays, and Friday's lecture will be for 2 hours, so that whatever things we are going to lose today, that will be covered in Friday's lecture, as well as what we are supposed to cover on Friday's lecture, that also will be covered on Friday. So we are very sorry, but this is only to accommodate some of the participants who made sent mails to us saying that they are facing problem, and it's known that we checked internet also. Pune and many other places, Airtel connection is down, and many of the students, they not being in their institutes, they are joining from home, and at home they have many of them have Airtel connection. So that is the reason. Okay, so because there is a request that don't make it 2 hour, but I mean, we have no choice. Okay, because again we have the days are fixed, the examination days are fixed, so there is nobody is going to join. If we schedule it on another day, again many of you will have a problem saying that we can't join on Saturday, or we can't join on Tuesday. So it will we have no choice apparently, because see what happens is when we have to accommodate somebody, it's somebody else also suffers, but then we have to make sure that the sufferings are minimal. So okay, so uh, recordings of every session will be available, but that will be available at the end. Okay, so please don't keep making the same request again and again, when the rules are set in the beginning that they have to be attended live, and we have set the timing as set there as timing as from 5 to 6:30. We have already said that, so that will on one day, on just on one day, it is going to become 5 to 7 instead of 6:30. Okay, so everybody makes adjustments in life, and this course is no different than that. So do make that. In our college also, your lectures get postponed, sometimes they get cancelled. It's our sincere attempt that no such disturbance occurs, but as you see, we are ready to I mean deliver the lecture. But it's unfortunate that you are joining, you have taken time, you were looking forward to present now the webinar, the lecture today, but just to be show our solidarity to our fellow participants, we are just making a one time exception, that we are postponing it. Any questions, do ask it in the chat box, we will answer them. And Bharat, would you like to add something to what I said?
I think our intention is that whatever we have promised gets fulfilled. So we are going to make sure today's content also gets covered in the Friday session, and rest all sessions go as per the planned thing. So that's why we request you to spare more time on Friday, and we cover the topic that we're supposed to cover today as well.
Okay, so yeah, so there will be no loss in the contents that we have that have been planned. So and because another reason is we could have even shifted one lecture ahead, but again we have the examination date also fixed, and which we had declared before the course started. So we just cannot change this, because somebody will again say that I'm not available on the next day or something, where if we shift the examination also. So we don't want to get into those complications. We want to keep the complications as minimum as possible. They cannot be totally eliminated, but whatever best we can do, we will definitely try and help you out. And yes, we accept that uh, the issue is on our side, in the sense we are trying to help some of the students, and this has this happened I think 1 week ago also, I mean, you might have seen it in newspaper that whole of India, Airtel had problem for whatever. I mean, and we don't know when it will come back. So that is another problem. If they had said that it is going to come back at 5:15, at 5:30, we would have started it at 5:30. Okay, but that's not the case. Okay, so Bharat, there is a question about some technical question not related to today's.
I have Windows-based PC. I have installed VMware and Ubuntu. Does it help me to run simulations? I'm not sure what you mean by simulations, but if your question is that can I run um, can I run some simulation on Windows, which is running on Linux, which is running inside of VMware on a Windows machine? Yes, you can run. You can also install Docker inside it if you would like to. So it becomes like a two-layer thing, and it may have some performance problems, but yes, in general, it will work.
Okay, and if anybody has, okay, we can now that one participant has asked the question and Bharat is available. In case there are any questions that you would like to ask related to past 8 or 10 lectures, which Bharat can answer, he will. Okay, so we can have this session for another 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, and then any questions that uh, come to your mind about what we covered earlier, feel free to ask them. If they are related to what Bharat knows, he will surely answer them. So she is asking class related simulation.
Okay, so I kind of answered this question previously also, was that certain part of the material is kind of basic in nature. You can run it on your own laptop, like you can install Docker, run them and all. You don't need a cluster for it. But certain part of these lecture series are concentrated towards a cluster-based environment to make everybody familiar with how AI is used in the real-world environment in enterprise and in supercomputing domain. These are more advanced topics, and for that, yes, you would require a cluster access in case you want to replicate whatever has been taught to you. So while we'll be providing all the scripts and everything, but yes, there are ways to simulate a cluster, like you can create multiple VMware instances into the same machine and try to give them different IPs and all, but that does not solve the purpose. So again, to answer, I think we are clearly mentioning for every lecture what are the prerequisites. Like for certain of them, you would require a cluster environment, and for certain of them, you don't need cluster, just your laptop is more than enough. Or you can also access cloud environments like Amazon or Google Clouds also. There are a few free instances which are available there if you would like to access them.
There is one more
So
question.
yeah, so there is a question on, will the exam be
No, that
descriptive
I
or
have
objective?
answered. Yeah, that I have
Yeah,
answered. It's
yeah. So it
multiple choice
would,
questions. Yeah, MCQ.
is there a
Okay, the
standard
next one.
formula to convert from teraflops to teraops? Is this conversion architecture dependent? Now, that's a good question, and it depends on how do you also measure teraops. Like, is it 8-bit that you're trying to measure? Is it 16-bit? There is something called as mixed precision also, where you can have the calculation in one precision, but you do accumulation in a different kind of a precision. So unfortunately, there is no one answer based on what is defined as teraops. There are standard formulas. I'm saying there are standard formulas, but it depends on what you're defining as teraops. Is it for mixed precision? Is it for 8-bit? Is it for 16-bit? Or there are different kinds of instruction sets which have been released, which are used primarily in the AI domain. So there are fixed formula, and all the vendors would define, when we say when any vendor, architecture vendor defines these numbers, they will also explain how these numbers come, right? like how many cores are there, you multiply it with the frequency, then you multiply it with the number of instructions that you can execute within one clock cycle. So there is a very typical formula which exists, which you can use.
Okay, so the answer is it is architecture dependent.
It is not architecture dependent, it is actually dependent on the instruction set which that architecture supports. Not every architecture supports all the instructions defined by IEEE.
Okay. There is one more question.
Can only packages and OS be containerized, or any custom code is written on MATLAB can be containerized? Any, see, container basically is nothing but like you are making your whole operating system come up. Like I can have a container on base Ubuntu, right? Now inside that, whatever you can install, you can install. It doesn't matter. It can be MATLAB, it can be any other commercial code, it can be your own code, it can be Hello World code, it can be a AI framework like TensorFlow. It's like a new operating system given to you, and you can install practically anything that you can install on a bare metal inside it and make it work. The only additional point that you have to refer to is when you're inside a container, and if you're trying to use something like MATLAB, how do you take care of licenses? Now MATLAB licenses are very peculiar in the sense, like any licenses are like that. Like you may have a central license, then how does the container actually access the central license and all? That's a different topic altogether. But you can have practically any application inside a container that you can have on a bare metal system.
Okay, so we'll wait for some time to check if there are any more questions. There is a question, Bharat.
How orchestration helps in reducing workloads? Can you define what do you mean by workload? Orchestration as a topic is used for reducing the overall management and utilization of your cluster efficiently. It does things like load balancing. It can transfer it from one node to the other without having to do a lot of efforts. It provides you reporting, better reporting tools and all. So it does reduce the workload of the administrator, right? And it makes it adds those additional things as much as possible, but it does not reduce the workload of the application workload. As in, think of it like this: if you deploy a service and currently it can handle say 8, it's like a client server service, and if it can handle 8 clients, you can add one more node and expand via the TPOps or the MLOps tools, and you would be able to now scale and able to request more number of clients just by having these orchestration tools around you, right? So it kind of behind the scene does all those load balancing and much more thing like that. But I don't know exactly what do you mean by reducing the workload of your application. That's not. These are all things behind the scenes for the cluster to make sure utilization is good, load balancing is good. We are able to add more nodes without having to do a lot of shuffle. It adds redundancy kind of a features, like if there's some problem in one container, it can kick in and create a new instance without you having to worry about it. So it does a lot more things like that. Can I have containers on Windows? Yes, we had, I think by now we have done so many demos. There was a demo which was shown on Windows also of how to run a container. We can run containers. Whether we recommend it is a different question. Mostly the containers are very well supported on Linux, and they are used quite a lot in Linux, and the support is also much more evident and used in the Linux system, because you can think of it like this, that Linux being open source, there it provides many more, the community can provide many more hooks and make many of those things available. So yes, you can run on Windows. Whether it's going to be efficient for you is a different question altogether. Can't answer that. And we have already provided multiple links. And if you still have a question on how to install in Windows, please paste it on the Slack channel. There are TAs who maintain this, who keep on looking at your queries, and they will answer your question in case. What you have to do is you have to post the exact steps you followed, the exact error you are getting, and the TAs will help you out.
So that workload clarification, a question that you asked, it's related to job and configuring objects.
Yeah, as in the answer in short would be yes, as I said, right? So you can, that's what it is meant for.
I will read out the question for you, the next one, because it is long, so that other participants also get to hear it. The question is, for trying these hands-on parts that were mentioned in the lecture, the professor was mentioning Amazon or Google Cloud. So with respect to this, first question is, can we use the same lecture scripts on this platform? And second question is, can you please share some insight on how and where to subscribe to get this access from Amazon or Google Cloud to try them? So his point is, telling about these scripts is good, but participants, if they get to try it on themselves, because there are some participants who are from NSM sites, so they get access to it, but there are many participants who are not from institutes where NSM machines are installed, so it will be very helpful to them. So please answer these two questions.
Okay. So the first thing is, yes, I think what we can do is we can post certain links to you. I think even if you just search instance, as in if I just search Google Colab or anything, you will, it's very easy to use. But we will post certain links where you can see what all free instances are available and how you can use them. We'll ask the TAs to do that. Whether the scripts will run, as I said, some of the scripts will run because like if there is a Jupyter notebook explaining PyTorch, which is going to be there in the next few lectures, and all those things are possible. But you can't do things like cluster installations or Kubernetes installation in this cloud, because behind the scenes it's already done for you. You don't get root accesses to do some fresh installations on these cloud instances, right? Unless you take a bare metal system and pay for it. So you would be able to run many of those scripts which are more of code related on this cloud infrastructure, but advanced things like how to set up Kubernetes, which was shown as a demo and all, you won't be able to do that. And we'll ask the TAs to post some of these links to you where you can go ahead and run some of those lectures which are there.
So this access is free on this Google and to a limited extent?
So they provide a limited access, Google Colab basically provides access to older Kepler GPUs, KETs, for free. They have certain restrictions in terms of how much data you can access and for how much time continuously you can run and all. For these sessions, I think it should be okay for these small Jupyter notebooks which are going to be presented.
Okay, there is one more question. You can read that.
Yeah.
Continuation of Windows container question. He says, can I install packages on containers in multi-phases?
Can I install packages on containers in multiple phases? If your question is, if I understand the question correctly, if the question is like this, that I had a bare metal Ubuntu container, then I suppose installed TensorFlow on it using pip install or whatever conda based installation, then you can save that Docker instance with you, which you can reuse again and again. You can also push it back to the repository if you would like to, but you can keep it as a tar file if you would like to, or as an image within your node. Then again, you can run it, install one more package, say Rapids or scikit-learn onside it, then again save the instance. So it becomes like a layered thing. So it will keep on adding more stuff, and you can keep on saving the state of the container wherever you would like to save it. So you can have multiple packages installed in multiple phases, and it is all possible to do that. But when you are running the container, and if you have installed something, and if you forgot to save, like if you didn't do Docker save, in that particular case, when you exit the Docker container, the installation would be gone, because it's just a running part, right? You have to save it as an image again, so that you don't have to keep on doing that installation again and again. So you have to use Docker save for that.
Okay, we
Yeah.
will wait for more questions for some time. Okay, looks like there aren't any. However, just one last chance for participants to ask a question. Otherwise, we will assume that there are no more questions. And just to repeat, today's lecture will be covered on Friday, day after tomorrow. So do attend that. Okay, so Bharat, I think we can close because I don't see any other question. Okay. Okay, there is one more which has popped up. Just have a look.
What is the current state of GPU virtualization on edge?
Jetson.
I'm not sure if you need virtualization on edge, as in I'm
Yeah,
not
as
very.
it is, it may not have enough resources.
Yeah, the necessity of virtualization comes from the fact that you have a large server and you're not optimally utilizing it. And virtualization adds one more layer above, and it makes it much more bulky, right? Your system. Edge computing is going actually the opposite way. You need as many minimal interventions in between, and you want the lowest latency. It's constrained under power, it's constrained under all of these things. So may not be virtualization, but the devices like Jetson and all, they run definitely containers, because it's finally by the end of the day Ubuntu, and containers are lighter weight and they have lesser latency. So you can definitely run containers on edge devices for sure. But you should be, as in we should be thinking why to do that. I don't believe edge devices should be actually seen as something which is an extension, and you would like to use it for doing some computation rather than making it as a virtualized or container based thing. So
Basically, you should look at it at you are collecting the data at the edge, processing it such that your network bandwidth is conserved, and then you send whatever is processed to the main server, where anyway you have which may be supporting multiple such edge devices. And it's basically the edge devices are taking some load off the main server, as well as it is conserving the network bandwidth, because you are only sending, just let's say you are doing an object detection. So detected objects can be detected on the edge, and what you have detected can be sent to the server, and then server is maybe serving thousands of such devices. Maybe that's where that's an use case, you can say.
and
Right,
we
Bharat?
do have a session on edge computing, so you can definitely ask that question again to the instructor, and we will be covering more in-depth part of how edge computing works in this environment. So can we have a short assignment to assess our understanding? Maybe
I think you
a
should
teaser.
post it on Slack channel. Think about it and maybe. But then again, make sure that you should also tell how they can do it or where they can do it, because not everybody has access to NSM systems. So that
Right.
also you'll have to think whether it is doable and how it is doable, and maybe uh, think over the weekend and maybe you can post next week, because this, in my opinion, this question is quite genuine, and
Yeah.
I mean, and we should make an attempt to address this
Yeah.
in some way. Yeah.
So we'll try to see, as in we'll figure out if we need to give you some assignment which can run on cloud, or a couple of MCQ questions and things like this. We'll try to create something. And we'll talk to the other instructors and see what we can come out with.
And also tell what set of lectures is this based on, so that also you can tell. I think we are done for the truncated day, and uh, please join us on Friday, and then we will make sure that you don't lose out on anything that we were supposed to cover. Everything will be covered. That's a promise from our side. So thanks, Bharat. Thanks all the TAs who have joined and listening to this, and we will meet on Friday. Thank you all. We will end the webinar now.